The New Orleans Saints were supposed to fade into the background, but right now they look like the problem nobody in the NFC South is ready for. In Week 17, they went on the road, fell behind, then watched Tyler Shough drop 333 passing yards and 2 touchdowns on the Tennessee defense, while Chase Young ripped the ball out of Cam Ward's hands and ran it back the other way. This is a team that most people labeled dead in September, now riding 4 straight wins and an undefeated December, with a crowd that suddenly believes again. Nobody expected the team that lost so many starters to be the one landing knockout punches in late season games that still matter. What makes this run so wild is how thin the offense looks on paper and how dangerous it looks on the field. Wide receiver 2 gone, wide receiver 3 gone, running back 1, running back 2, even depth at tight end and right guard all beaten up, and yet the ball keeps moving. Tyler Shough, a rookie second-round pick that a lot of people doubted, is standing in the pocket and dropping perfect timing throws to Chris Olave, Kevin Austin Jr., and whoever else is healthy enough to line up. In that Titans win, he went 22 of 27 with a 142.7 passer rating, then added earlier games where he dragged the Saints back against Carolina, Miami, Tampa Bay, even when the run game was hanging by a thread and backs like Audric Estime had to step into the spotlight. When drives stall, Charlie Smith steps on and nails kicks from deep, like that 57-yard bomb that kept the Saints within reach. This does not look like a team holding on. It looks like a young quarterback dragging an offense forward. On the other side of the ball, the energy feels just as different. Chase Young is playing like the edge rusher everyone dreamed he could be. Cam Jordan is still winning at 36, Demario Davis is flying to the football, and the secondary is closing windows faster every week. Put it all together, and you have a franchise that people thought would be in the race for the first pick, now sitting with the same win total as some of the league powers while still holding a top draft spot that can flip the whole roster. The shocking part is, this did not happen by accident. While other teams in their spot started talking about draft order and quiet losses, the Saints chose a different path. And the choice they made with this locker room is where the real story starts. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Saints and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. All season long, people pointed at the New Orleans Saints and used one word behind the scenes: reset. They were grouped with teams like the Raiders, Giants, Jets, and others that were already being lined up in mock drafts, not in playoff graphics. Fans heard talk about blowing it up, chasing the highest possible pick, maybe even starting over again at quarterback. Instead of leaning into quiet losses and empty seats, this locker room chose something completely different. They kept playing hard in cold games, they kept chasing comebacks, and they kept answering every outside joke with real wins. What nobody was ready for was a team that looked like a project on paper, acting like a building block for the next few years. That tone shift starts with the staff. Kellen Moore walked into a room that had veterans like Cam Jordan and Demario Davis, young pieces like Chris Olave, and a first-year passer in Tyler Shough, who was supposed to sit behind the plan everyone thought was safe. Instead of treating the year like a long tryout, Moore pushed this roster to chase real progress every week. Players talk about how nothing feels fake in meetings, how effort late in the year matters, how nobody is being protected for the sake of future contracts. When you see a defense flying around with Chase Young, hunting quarterbacks, and a young offense fighting through mistakes without finger pointing, you see a group that has bought in. That is not what a team looks like when it has already accepted the idea of losing on purpose. Upstairs, the picture is just as interesting. Mickey Loomis has taken his hits over the years for cap choices and short-term pushes. But this season forces a different kind of question. If this front office stays aggressive, keeps this staff in place, and treats Tyler Shough as the centerpiece instead of a bridge, what happens when they add a real help instead of pulling pieces away? The Saints have turned a year that was supposed to be about draft position into a live test of their identity. And the next thing every fan wants to know is how they even reached this point at quarterback. That story starts with who used to be under center and the risky decision that opened the door for the kid, now changing everything. The New Orleans Saints did not just change quarterbacks, they flipped their whole identity under center. For years, the plan was simple: lean on Derek Carr as the steady veteran who would keep the offense on schedule and limit mistakes. Instead, his time in New Orleans turned into a string of tough hits on wideouts, tight throws over the middle, and frustration every time a drive ended early. When the staff turned to Spencer Rattler to open this season, the story was supposed to be fresh legs and a live arm, bringing new life to the offense. What nobody saw coming was how fast that plan would crack once turnovers started piling up in big moments. With Spencer Rattler, you could see the talent, the anticipation, the ability to fit the ball into tight windows, but you could also feel every risky decision. Late in games against aggressive defenses, the ball found defenders too often, and those mistakes put pressure on every other unit on the team. The locker room was not quitting on him. The staff was not throwing blame around, but everyone could see the same thing. The offense needed someone who could calm the chaos instead of adding to it. That is when the attention swung to Tyler Shough, the rookie who was supposed to be the long-term project, not the early season answer. Draft night made that move even more intense. The Saints spent an early second-round pick on Tyler Shough, a passer with a long college file at Oregon, Texas Tech, and Louisville. And people outside the building questioned everything about it, from his age to his injury history to whether he had starter traits. Inside the building, Kellen Moore saw something different: a mature presence, a strong arm, and a quarterback who processed the field like he had already been in the league for years. When the staff finally made the switch and put the ball in his hands, it was not a panic move. It was a bet that the tape from college would carry over on Sundays. The real test is not the decision itself. It is what Tyler Shough did with those snaps. And the next stretch of games is where he starts to look less like a placeholder and more like a problem for every defense on the schedule. The first full look at Tyler Shough as a rookie starter came in Los Angeles against a Sean McVay team that does not give young quarterbacks breathing room. The box score from that afternoon will never go viral, but the tape tells a different story. You could see him hit his back foot and fire on time, even while the pocket tightened inside and receivers struggled to finish plays. On third down, he kept finding the right shoulder, the right leverage, the safe spot where only his guy had a shot. A week later in Carolina, with crowd noise in his ears and Bryce Young on the other sideline, the calm was still there. He pushed the ball down the field, trusted Chris Olave, and walked out with his first division win as the starter. Not because the game was perfect, but because every big moment felt a little less heavy in his hands. That is where you first saw it. A young passer acting like the stage was his, instead of something he had to survive. Then came the real stress test, a stretch of games where the defense knew the ball was living in the air. Atlanta hit him from every angle, brought pressure, disguised coverage, and still watched Tyler Shough stand in and rip throws. The Saints did not get the result they wanted, but he kept taking shots without folding into panic throws. Miami was a different kind of storm. Early on, he missed throws he usually hits. The timing felt off, and the ball looked a little wild. Then the second half started, and it looked like a different quarterback. He slid in the pocket, extended plays, and went throw for throw with Tua Tagovailoa, while putting the ball in tight windows over and over again on almost every dropback. By the time Tampa rolled around, the staff finally leaned into his legs, calling keepers and red zone runs that let him finish drives on the ground. You could feel the confidence jump when he crossed the goal line, like he realized he did not have to be a statue. He could be a playmaker in space too. The closing run of that 8-game sample is where the league should start to worry. Back home against Carolina, he outplayed Bryce Young again, this time with more control, more anticipation, less hesitation on throws over the middle. Against the Jets, he faced a defense that lives off confusion and still looked like the adult in the room, moving through progressions and taking easy money when it was there. Then Tennessee hit him with late pressure and scoreboard stress, and all he did was keep firing, dropping a deep shot to Chris Olave, trusting Kevin Austin Jr. on a red zone route, and letting Audric Estime close the door when it was time to lean on the ground game. By the end of that stretch, teams were no longer asking if Tyler Shough could handle the moment. They were asking how to slow him down. The scary part is he was doing all of that without a full set of weapons, which is where the next part of this story gets even more interesting. The wildest part of this New Orleans run is how many new faces are catching big-time throws from Tyler Shough. You watch the tape, and you see Chris Olave cooking corners on the outside, but the ball is arriving in spots that make him look even cleaner, out in front, away from contact, right where he can turn up the field. Then you shift your eyes to guys the league barely talks about. Kevin Austin Jr. beating a nickel on a sharp break. Dante Pettis settling in a soft spot, and the same thing keeps happening. The ball shows up like Tyler Shough has known them for years. This is a rookie quarterback, throwing with veteran trust, letting his receivers play fast because they never have to guess what he sees. That is how role players start to look like real weapons. It is the same story when you look at the middle of the field. Juwan Johnson is no longer just a safety valve. He is a problem for linebackers because Tyler Shough keeps hitting him right as he comes out of his break. Not a second late, not a step behind. Backs out of the backfield feel it too. When Alvin Kamara is on the field, the check down is not a panic move. It is a planned answer that turns into extra yards because the ball hits him in stride. When Audric Estime gets his chances, you can see how the threat of Tyler Shough over the top lightens the box, giving him cleaner lanes than a depth back usually sees. Even in hurry situations, when protection is shaky and the sideline is loud, there's a rhythm to the way he moves from deep shot to tight end to running back. That rhythm is why this offense does not look like a group of backups trying to hang on. It looks like a unit that believes its quarterback will put the ball where it needs to go. Inside the huddle, that presence changes everything. Linemen know that if they can just hold for a heartbeat longer, Tyler Shough will turn it into something real, whether it is a layered throw over the middle to Chris Olave or a back shoulder dart to a reserve wideout who has been waiting all year for his moment. Defenses are starting to play them like a real passing attack instead of stacking the line and daring New Orleans to throw. In that respect, opens small cracks for the run game, even when the names on the depth chart keep changing. The scary thought for the rest of the NFC South is simple. This is what the offense looks like before the front office fixes the interior line and adds another proven playmaker. If the attack can already function at this level with so many pieces missing, imagine what happens once the other side of the ball, a defense that has been quietly building its own identity, gets to play with a lead more often. Everyone is busy talking about Tyler Shough, but the quiet truth is, this defense is the reason going all in actually makes sense. Look past the record, and you see a unit that lives near the top of the league in sacks, takes the ball away in big moments, and rarely gives up easy scores through the air. Chase Young is playing with the edge of a former top pick who finally feels healthy, blowing up drives with pressures that do not even show in the box score. Cam Jordan is still winning one-on-one at 36, finishing rushes with the same control he had years ago, and setting the tone for everyone in the room. When your veteran pass rush looks like that, you are not in a rebuild, you are in a reload. Behind them, the pieces are not just young. They are impact players already changing games. Demario Davis looks like he has found a new gear, reading screens before they develop, timing blitzes, and closing running lanes before backs can cut. At safety, Jonas Sanker is settling into his role, cleaning up deep shots and helping corners trust their leverage. On the outside, Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry are challenging throws instead of just surviving them, piling up pass breakups and looking comfortable when teams try to test them down the field. This is not a group waiting for a few more drafts to grow up. It is a mix of vets and younger players who already know how to finish drives, which is exactly what you want if you plan to push resources toward the offense. The best part is how this all lines up with the future. Chase Young is on a deal that looks smarter every week he stays on the field. Cam Jordan is still productive enough to be more than a mentor if he comes back. The secondary is stacked with talent that can carry into the next 3 to 5 years without a complete reset. That means the front office does not have to throw premium picks at every level of the defense. They can focus on one more young edge, maybe another interior disruptor, and then turn the rest of their ammo toward fixing the soft spots in front of Tyler Shough. Because for all the good this team has done, there is one side of the ball that still needs serious work if the Saints want to turn potential into real power, and it starts with what is happening right in front of their quarterback. The Saints' offense is being dragged down by one obvious flaw: the interior offensive line in front of Tyler Shough. The tackles look solid long-term, but constant pressure between guard and center, with Cesar Ruiz struggling and Eric McCoy missing time, keeps collapsing the pocket and forcing Tyler Shough to rush throws or escape before routes even develop. That leaks into Kellen Moore's play calling, pushing him toward quick throws, screens, and games where Tyler Shough is asked to sling it around 40 times because the run game cannot control the line on early downs, even with backs like Alvin Kamara and Audric Estime. The scheme is fine. The quarterback is playing at a high level for a rookie, but free rushes make every drive feel harder than it should be. The crazy part is how fixable it looks. Add one real difference maker inside, give Tyler Shough a cleaner pocket and a stronger downhill runner to share the load with Alvin Kamara, and those near misses can turn into chunk plays, while the offense becomes more balanced. New Orleans has already shown it can move the ball and score in spite of these leaks. So the real question for the rest of the NFC South is what happens if the front office spends its draft picks and cap space fixing these exact problems and fully commits to building around their young quarterback. The NFC South is wide open, and the Saints are the one team ready to take it. Carolina, Tampa, and Atlanta are all searching, while New Orleans has momentum, a believing locker room, and Tyler Shough proving he can handle big moments. Keep Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley, lock in Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson, and Chase Young. Then use picks and cap space on interior protection, another outside receiver, and a young edge behind Cam Jordan. If they commit to that plan, the Saints can turn this late surge into years of control over the division.